It was 2 a.m. when the pounding started. 3 sharp knocks that made the whole hallway echo. In the dark, Mariah jolted awake, heart hammering, unsure if she was dreaming. The voice on the other side was cold and commanding, "Open up, HOA inspection." She froze. HOA? At this hour? She lived alone, a quiet analyst who barely spoke to neighbors. Still half asleep, she whispered to herself, "This can't be real." But then came the crash, the door splintering as men in uniform stormed in with flashlights and radios crackling. Her small apartment filled with light and confusion. Mariah stood trembling in her robe, trying to process what was happening. The officers demanded to see ID, but their eyes were already scanning the walls. Something about her calm, steady presence unsettled them. Because behind her, above a small bookshelf, hung a jacket, a dark navy coat with gold lettering across the back. FBI. The room went still. No one spoke. The youngest officer's flashlight lowered slightly as he squinted at the jacket. "Wait, what is that?" The older sergeant swallowed hard, trying to keep his voice even. Mariah said nothing, she just crossed her arms, her silence more powerful than any shout. Finally, she asked softly, "Do you have a warrant?" The sergeant hesitated, muttering something about a noise complaint and community disturbance. But she could see the truth in his eyes, they weren't expecting this. The jacket on the wall wasn't for decoration. It belonged to her, Special Agent Mariah James, recently retired after 12 years of federal service. "You broke into a federal officer's home," she said calmly. The color drained from their faces. Radios clicked off. One officer quietly reached for his notepad, but his hands were shaking. Outside, neighbors peeked through curtains, phones recording. The HOA squad had no idea they'd just crossed the wrong door. Mariah sat at her kitchen table, steam rising from her untouched coffee as the officers stumbled over their excuses. "Ma'am, we thought." "You thought what?" she interrupted, eyes sharp but voice measured. "That a woman living alone needed to be rated over parking citations." One officer shifted uncomfortably. The sergeant mumbled something about a misunderstanding and a report mix-up. But Mariah wasn't interested in excuses. She picked up her phone and quietly pressed record. "Tell me your names," she said. The silence was deafening. They hadn't realized she was still connected to friends inside the bureau. She didn't raise her voice once, but every second of her composure cut deeper than any anger could. She wasn't seeking revenge, she wanted accountability. And as she calmly documented everything, the men who once barged in now stood at attention, unsure whether to apologize or by dawn, word had spread. Videos of the incident were circulating online, neighbors' clips showing the HOA security team breaking in, followed by their stunned silence when the FBI jacket came into view. Thousands were watching. "Retired agent harassed in her own home," headlines read. Mariah didn't want fame, she wanted truth. The HOA board called her, begging to settle quietly. But she refused. "If I let this go," she said, "they'll do it again, to someone without a badge on the wall." She began working her contacts, gathering evidence of how many others had been intimidated or threatened under the guise of community rules. Each testimony fueled her mission. The same woman they tried to silence was now speaking for dozens who couldn't. Mariah met with local reporters in a small cafe. She wore that same jacket, the one that had stopped the men in their tracks. It wasn't about power anymore, it was about principle. They thought authority meant control, she said, but real authority protects people. Her words went viral. Within days, a full investigation was opened. The HOA boardroom, once untouchable, now faced scrutiny from both the press and the law. Some officers resigned, others apologized publicly. Mariah didn't gloat. She just wanted fairness restored. Late one evening, she received an email from a young mother in the same complex. "Because of you, I'm not afraid anymore." Mariah closed her laptop, exhaling softly. For the first time in months, she felt peace returning, but peace never lasts long for those who stand up. Anonymous letters started appearing at her door, warnings, veiled threats to move out quietly. Mariah smiled bitterly, intimidation was nothing new to her. She'd faced worse. Instead of backing down, she hosted an open meeting in the community hall. Dozens came, residents who had stayed silent out of fear. One by one, they shared their stories. Tears, anger, relief. Mariah listened to them all, her steady presence giving strength. When the HOA president tried to interrupt, she stood tall and said, "This neighborhood deserves better." Cameras flashed, people cheered. For the first time, power shifted, from those who abused authority to those who demanded justice. Weeks later, Mariah's door was repaired, her home quiet once again. The investigation concluded, the officers dismissed, the HOA restructured, and new policies ensuring no one's rights could be violated again. One evening, she sat by the window, the soft hum of the city outside. On the wall, the jacket still hung, not as a warning but as a reminder. Justice, she thought, isn't loud. It's steady, unyielding, and built by those who refuse to be broken. As she turned off the lights, her phone buzzed, a message from a neighbor, "Thank you for standing up when we couldn't." Mariah smiled. The night was peaceful now. But somewhere deep down, she knew, if the world ever needed her again, that jacket wouldn't stay on the wall for long.